This is the Blaze Radio on demand.
In the next 19 seconds, you could sell your home. Okay, it's not going to sell your home. But you're going to take a big step toward getting it sold. Go to realestateagentsitrust.com and find an agent selected by my team, a professional who shares your values and speaks the truth. Sell your home fast and for the most money. Get moving at realestateagentsitrust.com.
The Buck Sexton Show.
We're joined by the one, the only, the irreplaceable, the indefatigable Matt Welch, editor-at-large for Reason Magazine. A lot of libertarians today. We had Catherine on before. Now we got Matt Welch. You guys are just taking over with your libertine ways.
Yeah. We're all just stoned here, Buck. You can tell by us giggling.
So, Matt, you know it's coming. We got a question for you. Hit it.
And what is Aleppo? And what is Aleppo?
Matt, you're just going to have to take me through this one a little bit.
He ganked it. His net was empty, and he scored the goal for the other team. That's what that was all about. What do you want me to say? The guy screwed up. The one silver lining on this, I compare this a little bit to Donald Trump's interview with Hugh Hewitt a year ago, if we all recall. When
are you going to go curds on me right now?
Yeah, he.
Oh, come on!
No. I just listen. There's a Trump tried to bluff his way through. Is the conclusion I want to bring out on this. Not that Trump is a bad guy because of the way he answered that, or that his ignorance is disqualifying, or anything like that. I have my issues with Trump. I'm saying that in that moment, there is something to be said about the honesty of ignorance and fessing it up. I think that everybody in public life, including yappers like us, could stand to use a little bit more humility and occasionally admit when they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Sadly, you should know what the hell you're talking about when you're running to be the president of the United States. So it's not there's no lipstick to put on the pig. But I think, compared to describing Libya as smart power at its best, which Hillary Clinton has done, I think this sin ranks rather lower on that list.
Yeah, look, I think that's people are going to make a bigger deal out of this than they should. But in terms of what it does symbolize with regard to Gary Johnson's seriousness or lack thereof as a presidential candidate, I feel like it's not possible to have read a major newspaper on just the front page in the last 3 months and not know what Aleppo is. So that's why I think this for me is akin to Sarah Palin when asked, what do you read? Where do you get your news sources? You're not allowed to blank out on that. You have to just say a newspaper. There's no, all of them or what do you mean or what? You just say a few newspapers.
I would answer that question. I had Twitter. Someone asked me this the other day. I was doing a Reddit to ask me anything. They're like, so what's your favorite liberal publication? What's your favorite conservative one? And I was like, you know what? I don't read anymore. I just use Twitter. I follow people and I follow them to where they're going and talking about. No, you're right. Of course, you're especially when you're running for president, not just president. You need to know stuff like that, and you need to not have brain.
And it wasn't like it also. I mean, not to pile on with Gary here, and not to make jokes about how he's clearly had lots of papers in his hands. They just had nothing to do with the news. But, with Gary here, it's not like the question was, what is EBITDA, which you would hope that a presidential candidate who's going to be maybe, very important to the economy would have some idea of what that is. But that's a little, people don't know what EBITDA is. And, fine.
I don't know what EBITDA is. My God. Is that what I'm supposed to shout when I'm shooting up my local?
No, but that's what I mean. This wasn't some little sort of bit of trivia, right? I mean, Aleppo is the scene of a massive siege and slaughter, and I mean, there's terrible things going on there, right? It's not even just that it's something he should have known; it's that anybody would not know who wants to be president. Anyway, I think it's was it Carter who said there was no Soviet domination of Eastern Europe, or am I getting the quote?
Ford.
Oh my God, Ford.
While
sorry.
he was president. So that there was no Soviet domination of Eastern Europe, which was a very curious thing for my Eastern European friends in Poland and Czechoslovakia to learn for sure. I wrote a post today being skeptical, not of the criticism of it necessarily, but of the impact that it would have. And part of it goes back to that Trump thing. I don't think, and it goes back to, even though I didn't mention it, George W. Bush talking about Slovakians and Grecians back in 1999 or 2000 or whatever it is. I am not convinced that there's a lot of evidence that Americans give a rip about those moments in terms of looking negatively at those candidates. Certainly both the other guys were pretty successful. And yeah, Sarah Palin had her moment about Russia, although some of that was kind of amplified or exaggerated, if I have the story correctly, like by Tina Fey. But I don't think that Americans place as much, the voting public places as much value in those moments. I think part of it is kind of an in-group signaling exercise of people who are part of the media elites. And let's just count me and you in that, even though that's not necessarily true. But, I mean, people who are every day wake up and are talking about, writing about, commenting on, or shaping American affairs. It's those people who are not particularly popular in this election. I don't know if you've noticed. They're the ones who get the most excited about these types of moments, I think, more than the average guy in the street. So I'm not convinced that this is going to impact Gary Johnson at all. Part of that is out of hope, because I am rooting for him to do better than he's doing, although he's doing better than any third-party candidate since Ross Perot in 92. But part of it also is just observation. How many weird things has Donald Trump said about foreign policy over the last 14 months, and yet here we are.
I do think that part of this cycle has turned into both sides playing this. It's almost like a pie eating contest, but it's a lie eating contest, meaning that we're, you have, I should use that again, by the way. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
You have people on the left who like to point out Trump. I mean, I was on CNN last night, and all they wanted to talk to me about was Trump's claim about Iraq, how he was against it. And I just find this to be kind of he was a private citizen. He could claim that he told a golfing buddy at some point that he was against it. I mean, you really can't, he's on record saying it was good. He's on record saying it was bad, and they did this whole day. But who really cares? And I think that people think that I'm being some sort of a Trump partisan. I actually think it is kind of a who really cares, because, again, to the point about what matters, like Hillary voted for the war. She was in a position of public trust. Trump was some guy who was, selling steaks and building golf courses. So it doesn't really matter. But they get all upset about this. And then on the left, they don't say anything about Hillary pulling this whole, classification has to be marked at the top and the bottom. That's just a lie. That's just not true. What Hillary Clinton said to Matt Lauer during that debate is a bald-faced, out-and-out, provable, no discussion about it lie. And yet only on the Trump side of the equation we're being told that Matt Lauer fell down on the job and, was horrible.
I went on MSNBC last weekend.
You did?
I go there all the time.
You go over there?
I go where I'm at.
Do they put soap bars in pillowcases and try to attack you in the hallway?
A lot of people, there's, first of all, the people who are not on camera, there's a lot of closet libertarians in that room, I will tell you that. Oh. And I'm talking about people that you would be surprised. The shows that they are producers on are like serious libertarians, and were always like whispering to me about Rand Paul and stuff like that. It's very funny. But no, they like to have me on either to, outflank them on stuff like civil liberties, or to be the person who tries to explain what the crazy non-progressive world believes. At any rate, the setup by Joy Reid, who I consider a friend, I was on with Joan Walsh and a couple other people, but the premise of it...
Joan Walsh? Good heavens, sir. Good heavens. Go ahead.
The premise of the whole segment, and you can find this on YouTube, it's pretty remarkable, was... There's absolutely nothing in the email scandal. It's a made-up thing by media who is rooting for Trump and engaging in false equivalence. And she did nothing wrong. And they all went around, and that was the setup, and everyone agreed with the setup, and then they finally got to me. And I was like, dude, she lied a lot about this. And they jumped down my throat like, we can't use that word. She didn't know it at the time. We don't know. We can't speak as to motivations. We have to be very careful. This is the right-wing media talking points. Dude, she lied. And she continues lying about it. She lied when she said that James Comey cleared her, gave her the seal of approval, that she did not lie. That was a lie, too. She lies almost every time she opens her mouth about this, but there's this kind of bubble of reality, of irreality that we deal with. And
I was told last
right.
night, I was chided last night on TV by Don Lemon because he says, well, Trump lies more. I'm like, well, I mean, can I see can we do like a count if we're just going to make that claim? Because Hillary lies a lot. She lies.
She does, and she lies about things that have to do with her own performance as a government official. And that's kind of important. There's a difference, as you alluded to earlier, between how you jackassed on Howard Stern in 2003 or 2 talking about the war. Now, I think probably, and I would say certainly, let's say, just based on the guy who I don't think is particularly honest, Trump has kind of mischaracterized or even lied about all of that. But as you point out, he didn't vote for it. Hillary Clinton not only did she defend her vote over time for the Iraq War, she only began to say that there was any possible learnable lesson about why that vote was a mistake about a year and a half ago, about 2 years ago. And again, as I mentioned before, she still describes Libya as smart power at its best. She's not learning through her bad mistakes. That is
her CPU is not a learning computer.
It's not a learning computer, and it is remarkable and worth a constant reminding that the same kind of progressive left who at the end of the Bush administration was damn near hysterical about executive power, about interventionism, about civil liberties, is now nominating and rallying around someone who is arguably the single most hawkish Democrat, someone who would like to see Edward Snowden locked up, who always is on the side of the government getting in your beeswax when it comes to national security, and who's being supported by a who's who of neoconservatives now. So it's just we live in remarkable times.
Aren't you unnerved or agitated or both by the FBI seeming to at least, I mean, to me, I mean, look, Andy McCarthy I assume you know Andy, former senior federal prosecutor for the Southern District of New York, really knows this stuff very well. Better than 90%, 95% of the legal analysts that I see going on TV on a regular basis. And he likes Comey on a personal level. And he's like, look, I don't know what to tell you. Like, some of the stuff that the FBI's been pulling is just, I can't prove it. I can't, there's no evidence, but it looks really bad. I feel like the Department of Justice looking like it is in the tank for one presidential candidate and, in a sense, interfering in a partisan way in a presidential election is deeply damaging. I mean, we already had people that were upset about governance and everything else going into all this. I think now they can point to this and be like, yeah, this really is fixed. It really is rigged.
Yeah, you knew that going in. I've heard people who I respect, who are not Hillary Clinton fans or Democrats, but who've been involved in prosecutions, say that they agree with his kind of preponderance and also intent standard. That, yeah, you could get her on the technical details of it. Sure, she clearly violated the law. I think even Comey, he might have not put it in those words, but he spelled it out in his press conference about there. But that federal cases usually are not made with this much evidence because there's not as much clear intent. That's it. Maybe it's debatable within the levels of debate, but sadly, we all knew this going in. It's equivalent to ending the NBA Finals on a foul call. It's just not going to happen, right? And is especially not going to happen, I think, with Hillary Clinton and a Democrat, although I think it probably also would not happen with a Republican in general for the same referee reasons. And you're right, it just leads to this widespread and deserved cynicism out there about the equal application of the laws. That's why the moment that was so powerful at the Lauer thing is from the service person saying, hey, look, I'd get punished for that. You're above the laws that affect me. How do you answer? And she doesn't have a good answer for that. And the Washington power structure does not have a good answer for that. And it feeds into the reason why people are just sick of government right now.
I would be much more forgiving of the whole thing. And I know it's easy to say that, but I really would if I felt like it was establishing a sort of new standard, essentially the standard being, look, like if you didn't mean to do something bad, if you weren't intending to be reckless with government secrets or whatever, we'll give you a pass. That's not the case. And nobody who works in government thinks that's the case. This is a Hillary Clinton specific standard, which I think is what makes it so much. So we don't even get the benefit of, okay, well, now this is sort of like an affirmative defense that you can make. It's just, well, if you're not Hillary Clinton, you're screwed. So it's, stinks to be you. Matt, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead, sir.
Oh, I was going to ask you. So, so you roll over to MSNBC and they don't try to give you a code red. That's good news. Who's good people over there that I would probably think is a communist? I'm not going to ask you to say anything bad about anybody, but like who's like a good dude or good dudette that I would call, or I would assume I should say is a commie?
Chris Hayes.
I just said that before you came on to Catherine. He seems like he'd be a good dude.
He's a good dude. He is genuinely interested in other sort of belief systems or interpretations that are different than his own, and he does it through a level of honest exploration, I find. I think, and I like him as a guy. He's a nice guy.
Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, my instincts once again correct. This just falls into the broadly based theory of Buck is almost always right, Matt. That's what we call it over here at the team. The Buck is almost always right.
And then I would probably shock you if I mentioned the name of one of my favorites, who's no longer there, Melissa Harris Perry. We saw each other and very warmly embraced the Democratic National Convention.
What?
Part of it is that they really enjoyed. I really enjoyed that show. It actually reminded me of your old show a little bit. I know that sounds.
Oh yeah, Real News. Yeah, I know. May it rest in peace.
Real News. I mean, because you sat around the table with the same people more or less for an hour or 2 hours, and you kind of chewed on a bunch of different things, and you can have longer conversations. And they weren't afraid to talk about all kinds of weird pop culture stuff and race stuff in a different way. And they just always love to get me on, as oftentimes I'd be the only white person or the only white male, or usually all of the above, and they would get me talking about like black women's hair. They love to try to make me as maximally uncomfortable, and I would roll with it because I love television, Buck.
Nice. Good man. Matt Welch is the editor-at-large for Reason Magazine. Follow him on Twitter. He's a highly entertaining and sophisticated and interesting fellow. Mr. Welch, always a pleasure, sir. Great to have you. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you, sir.
The Buck Sexton Show.
Hey, team, it's Buck. Have you tried a Casper mattress yet? They are incredible. They're obsessively engineered, and they come at a shockingly fair price for a mattress that brings together technology and comfort to also be a great value. Is just too much for any of you to pass up. It combines springy latex and supportive memory foams to create an award-winning sleep surface with just the right sink and the perfect bounce. Time magazine named it one of the best inventions of 2015. It is an award-winning mattress that absolutely will not disappoint. Try Casper for 100 nights risk-free in your own home. If you don't love it, they'll pick it up and refund you everything. Free shipping and returns to the U.S. and Canada. And for listeners of this show, you can get a special $50 toward any mattress by going to Casper.com/Buck, Casper.com/Buck, and use